Hello and welcome to the third in our series video discussing the concept of rubrics and how to design rubrics. We introduced two videos before. One of them was basically describing how to use assignments in the place of a conventional assessment. And then this progressed into another video where we touched on the topic of rubric building and how to design rubrics. But today we decided to take this a little bit more in depth and maybe speak to you a little bit more about designing and using rubrics for assessment. What are we going to do today and what do we want out of this? It's simple. We want to learn a few concepts that are related to rubrics. We want to explore new ideas that are existing and that people are using out there. We want to experience a little bit of how rubrics are actually built and designed. And at the end of the day, we want to be able to make decisions related to what type of rubrics to use, how to build them, when to use them, and so forth. Before we start, let me just tell you a little bit more about performance rating. What is performance rating? Performance rating is what we do to judge people. And it's basically as if we are saying that we judge you, but by what you do and not who you are. How fair can it get more than this? But take care. Based on this judgment, we will either decide what your salary will be, whether or not you will be promoted, and at the end of the day, what kind of grades you will take and those that you will deserve. So now it becomes a little bit tricky because there is a high stake that is related to this performance. But take care. This is what we know. Performance-based assignments, have always been there, but they call for performance-based and authentic assessment. Why is that? Because there is a high stake related to them. And when we do assessment, rubrics have to be there. And rubrics, they evaluate a series of tasks and criteria that are needed to produce a quality assignment or a quality finished product. So these tools are very appropriate, and we tend to be able to be in need for rubrics like those in order to take a look at assignments and make a judgment about them. But rubrics are not just for that. They are a tool for teaching and for assessment at the same time. So they do more than just offer us a solution in order to be able to put grades. They show a student what proficiency is. They tell a student how it looks like in order to be proficient. And this is very important. So they're helpful not only for the purpose of grading projects or student projects, they're also very, very helpful in order to help students to identify what it means to be at proficiency level and also to be able to follow up on their own levels at any given point of time. So it's good for their self-evaluation. It's also good if I am to use peer evaluation. And of course, it is good because it helps inter-rater reliability when evaluation is done by teachers. But just before we go into what types of rubrics we use, I just want to tell you that there are types of performance. So performance is either process performance or product performance. So performance can be performance that is done in terms of the process of doing something. Like, for example, when a student is asked to do some kind of physical skill, or if I am assessing work habits or communication skills, all these things that are done in the terms of specific process. In laboratories, when our students go in to develop slides, for example, for a lab, these are all called performance. But what kind of performance? They're process performance. On the other side of the spectrum, there's product performance, and this is the performance that is attributed with a deliverable or an output. Like, for example, I want my students to deliver to me some kind of assignment, maybe a research paper, maybe they're doing some kind of a product output. Like, for example, when I ask a trainee in medicine to write a prescription and this becomes their assignment, then this is a product assignment or product performance. And because we have two types of performance, there are also two types of rubrics. There is what we call holistic or scoring rubric, and then there is the analytical rubric. And in a minute, we will tell you what the difference is between both. But for now, you need to know that there are two types of rubrics. Let's just go over what scoring rubrics or holistic rubrics are in the first place. You know that holistic rubrics are rubrics that are identified for the sole purpose of scoring or grading an assignment or a deliverable. There are levels, and based on these levels, we score or rank our students. So a number of levels, but take care, only one criterion is being assessed at this point of time. And this criteria is a descriptive value that describes what a student should look like if they were to attain this level of performance. So this is why when we do holistic rubrics, this is what we are expecting. We expect, as you can see on the left, we expect the scores to be there, and they are graded from 1, which is like 50 to 59%, all the way to 4, which is 80 to 100%. But then you have to ask yourself, what does it take for a student to score the 80 to 100%? And how is that student different from the student that scored 50 to 59%, which is a 1? And I'll tell you that those students are different because each of these students is described by what we call a paragraph criteria. So this paragraph criteria is very indicative for the holistic or the scoring rubric, as we say. So it's only one criterion, one dimension. If we were to split down and focus on one of these criteria, and this is the winning criteria, the 80 to 100% student, and take a look what the student looks like, you will see that there are a number of descriptors. In this paragraph, we have described the understanding, the level of understanding, and we said that the level of understanding is complete. And we have identified also the level of execution and said that there is a complete level of execution. We have identified what a statement or an argument should look like in the student's deliverable, and so on. So it's one paragraph that identifies holistically what a student needs to do in order to attain the 80 to 100% score, which for me would be the 4th rank. Sometimes people like to do this ranking the other way around, where 1 is on the top, 4 is at the bottom. It depends. All you need to do is make sure your faculty understand how to use this rubric when they are using it for evaluation. Now, what about analytical? It's a little bit different. It goes beyond this. It becomes more complicated. It identifies aspects of student performance. So we have 2 dimensions here. The analytical rubric, it assesses 2 dimensions. One dimension will be the student performance and the level of achievement. That will be, it will go on the top. And then there will be the level, the criterion on which the student is evaluated. And here it's not going to be a holistic evaluation. No, it's going to be a number of criteria on which we are evaluating the students. So as you can see here, there are levels of attainment or achievement starting from beginning all the way to an exemplary student. You can change these, of course. What do I do in order to recreate this scoring system? You just need to sit with your faculty and ask, how are we going to grade our students? And go back to your bylaws and see what your bylaws state in terms of scoring your students. But then on the right side here, you can see there is a criterion. Here the criterion that we are using is stated objective or performance. Here we state the objective or performance in this criterion, and this is where we are supposed to put it. Where are we going to get these stated objectives? we're going to basically get them from the course specification. So you put all your objectives on one side, or all your attainments on one side, or all your skills on one side, depending on what it is you want to assess exactly. But it becomes complicated, as you see. At the top here, we can see levels of attainment, starting from adequate, which is 50 to 59%, all the way to excellent, which is 80 to 100%. And on the left side here, or whatever, you can see at your right, if you're the other way around, the criterion. What do the criterion look like? There are a number of criteria that we are assessing students on, starting from knowledge to critical thinking to communication, etc., etc. On the top, there are the rubric scoring. But how do we know which student takes what? Very easy. You put descriptors. So here in front of each criterion, there is a descriptor telling you how much this student should score. So if we were to focus down on critical and creative thinking, for example, and you ask me, what does it take for a student to score to be a starting student or a mediocre student or 50 to 59% student? I tell you, this is the descriptor. That student should use critical and creative thinking skills with limited effectiveness. But guess what? The beauty of this developmental rubric, developmental analytical rubric, is that this student knows that by the end of the course, they should reach this level, which is the level of using critical and creative thinking with a high degree of effectiveness, as you can see. So if you work your way towards within this analytical rubric, you will see the probable stages of attainment that a student should attain by the end of this course. So it's better to be used in the classroom. And guess what? It's best to be handled by the student. So this is not like a secret document. It's a document that the student should be able to handle very early on in the course. It actually aids the student learning during the course. Should we try? Well, it's not such a difficult job, by the way, because we have what we call here a managing system that helps us to create our rubrics. I'll just show you what this looks like. It's called Rubric Maker, actually. If you visit Rubric Maker, as you can see on my screen, it's called http://rubric-maker.com. Rubric Maker actually helps you to build your rubric and gives you a backbone to start from. You enter the title of your rubric here, let's say S, and the level, which is high, for example. Make the rubric. It opens up for you. It asks you, what exactly is your topic? So you say, my topic is, for example, I'm going to assess my students on oral presentation. And then they ask you, what component of oral presentation do you want to assess your student on? And actually, this drop-down menu gives you all the components of oral presentation that there is. So, for example, I'm going to assess my student knowledge. Once you do that, the descriptors, they appear. They appear in your rubric without you asking for them. You can then go in and change and tweak a bit, but it helps you a lot to have somewhere to start. Hopefully this will be of use to you, the use of this website, because creating an analytical rubric becomes a tedious job at times. So it's good to have someone to help you. And this website helps you a lot. Hopefully just before you go, we can have you just do a little bit of reflection where you will reflect quickly on two things. What kind of rubrics have you learned with us today? And how do you think you can use them in the future? And what kind of information do you need in order to understand what type of these rubrics you will be using in different situations? If you can scan this website, this QR code, it will take you to our feedback form. We will be happy to receive your feedback always on our form. And hopefully this will go into our future planning for future sessions. Thank you so much for being with us today. This was the third in the row of 3 videos discussing how to design your rubrics for proper evaluation, product, and process. Thank you so much for being with us. Hopefully this will be of use to you, and please tune in, subscribe to our channel, and tune in to our future videos. Thank you.